Monday, third grade. Another week of the one and only Ivan, continuing with our comprehension lessons and our vocab and reading, and it's going to be great. So, but for today, we're not going to do any comprehension notes. We're actually going to talk about the question on your note sheet for today that has theme at the top. It's the last question on the page. And I thought it might be a good idea for us to go over this one because theme is kind of something we've talked about for a long time. But when we were in book talk, it seemed like everyone was a little confused. So we're going to do this one together. And it says, the question is, what is an important lesson that could be learned from these chapters? Okay, well, number one, you're going to have to read the chapters first. So that's what we're going to do. But I wanted you to have the question in mind. When we talk about themes, where's that? Woo! Or lessons or themes, we're talking about what we're learning. So are we learning to be patient? Are we learning to be responsible? Are we learning to be a good friend? Are we learning to be a good family? So that is what it's going to be for today. We'll read first and then we'll talk. Okay, so I'm going to read all the chapters. So I want to get through this nice and quick. With the vocab, we've got 4 new vocab words, all very exciting. First word is sullen. And when I say the word sullen, it almost makes me sad, like sullen. Gloomy, sad mood. Perfect. It gives the connotation when I said it that, oh God, this word probably means something real sad. And how about thrilled? When somebody's thrilled, they're happy, they're excited, they're ecstatic that something's happening. Trudges. We have read this word before. We've talked about this word when we were doing context clues. When someone's trudging through something, what are they doing? They're walking slowly and heavily. We have to trudge through the snow to get to school, right? Gleaming, shiny. So the star at the top of your tree is gleaming brightly. You're trudging through the snow. I am thrilled that you're all enjoying this book. I'm so happy. I'm so excited that you're enjoying this book. Sullen. Well, when I'm filming my videos, it's really sullen. It's very gloomy outside. The weather, the sun's not out. It's just so hard to get out of bed. All right, so get these written down. Pause me here. And I'm going to keep going. So remember, we're going to read all the chapters together today, and then we're going to go over that question. Awesome. So let's come back. And I'm going to read you your quick write from here. It's something you'll work on when we're done, or you can pause and do it right now. No big deal. But how do you think animals are like humans? Okay, well, I'll do that question first. How do you think animals are like humans? Well, I think animals are like humans in a sense that a lot of them have families. They need families to survive. We need our families to survive. They also need food and water. They like to have fun. You see a lot of videos of animals playing like humans. They need fun in their life. What else? How are they like humans? Well, they have their senses. They have their own kind of homes. Maybe they have to live in something in order to survive. So that's what I would do. How do you think animals are unlike humans? Well, this one's kind of hard because there's so many different kinds of animals. You know, I walk on my 2 legs. I don't walk on my hands like a gorilla. I don't walk on all 4s like dogs or elephants. And I don't have a trunk, but I can smell. You know, they're different in a sense that we live, we have so many different things around us. I'm getting really too into this for a second, but, you know, we live in big houses with TVs and entertainment and games and video games and all these things. And animals they make their own things. They make their own homes most of the time. They make their own games if they're kicking a rock or whatever. So we live very differently. And we have animals as pets. So I don't really think animals keep other animals as pets. I wonder. That's very, very interesting to me. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that one. It's going to be very, very interesting. I'm going to get my book so we can start reading for today. I am opening to chapter 64, which starts with the punishment is the chapter that's called, and that always makes me kind of sad. All right. Punishment is on page 138. Page 138. Punishment. I soon learned that humans can screech even louder than monkeys. After that, I was never allowed in the kitchen. Oh, so this must be when Ivan was a baby and living with Helen and Mac. Babies, page 139. Back in those days, the Big Top Mall was smaller. It had a pony ride, a wooden train that bustled around the parking lot, a few bedraggled parrots, and a surly spider monkey. But when Mac brought me, a baby gorilla dressed in a crisp tuxedo, to the mall, everything changed. People came from far and wide to have their pictures taken with me. They brought me blocks and a toy guitar. They held me in their laps. Once I even held a baby in mine. She was small and slippery, bubbles flowing from her lips. She squeezed my fingers. Her rear was puffy with padding. Her legs bowed like bent twigs. I made a face. She made a face. I grunted. She grunted. I was so afraid she would fall that I squeezed her tightly, and her mother yanked her away. I wonder if my mother ever worried about dropping us. We always held on, but that's easier to do when your mother is furry. Human babies are an ugly lot. Oh man. But their eyes are like our baby's eyes. Too big for their faces and for the world. Oh, Ivan. Beds. One day, after many weeks of loud talking, Helen packed a bag and slammed the front door and never came back. I don't know why. I never know the why of humans. That night I slept with Mac in his bed. My old nests were woven of leaves and sticks and shaped like his bathtub, cool green cocoons. Mac's bed, like mine, was flat, hot without sticks or stars. Still, he made a sleeping sound like the rumble my father used to make when all was well, a sound from deep inside his belly. My place. Mac grew sullen, so he grew sad, right? Sad and gloomy. I grew bigger. I became what I was meant to be. Too large for chairs, too strong for hugs, too big for human life. I tried to stay calm, to move with dignity. I did my best to eat daintily. But humans are way hard to learn, especially when you're not a human. When I saw my new domain, I was thrilled, and who wouldn't have been? It had no furniture to break, no glasses to smash, no toilets to drop Mac's keys into. It even had a tire swing. I was relieved to have my own place. Somehow I didn't realize I'd be here quite so long. Now I drink Pepsi, eat old apples, and watch reruns on TV. But many days I forget what I'm supposed to be. Am I a human? Am I a gorilla? Humans have so many words, more than they truly need. Still, they have no name for what I am. 9,876 days. Oh my Lord. Ruby is finally asleep. I watch her chest rise and fall. Bob too is snoring. But my mind is still racing. For perhaps the first time ever, I've been remembering. It's an odd story to remember, I have to admit. My story has a strange shape, a stunted beginning, an endless middle. I counted all the days I'd lived with humans. Gorillas count as well as anyone, although it's not a particularly useful skill to have in the wild. I've forgotten so many things, and yet I always know precisely how many days I've been in my domain. I take one of the magic markers Julia gave me. I make an X, a small one, on my painted jungle wall. I make more X's and more. I make an X for every day of my life with humans. My marks look more like this. So there's some sloppy X's on there. It looks pretty cool. The rest of the night, I mark the days, and when I am done, my wall looks like this. So he's got that wall of X's, right? Looks like some crosses in there too. And so on, until there are 9,876 X's marching across my wall like a parade of ugly insects. A visit. It's almost morning when I hear steps. It's Mac. He has a sharp smell. He weaves as he walks. Oh no. He stands next to my domain. His eyes are red. He is staring out the window at the empty parking lot. Ivan, my man, he mumbles. Ivan. He presses his forehead against the glass. We've been through a lot, you and me. Oh boy, what's going to happen? A new beginning. We don't see Mac for 2 days. When he returns, he doesn't talk about Stella. Mac says he is anxious to teach Ruby some tricks. He says the billboard is bringing in more visitors. He says it's time for a new beginning. All afternoon into the evening, Mac works with Ruby. Ruby's feet are looped with rope so that she cannot run. A heavy chain hangs off her neck. Mac shows her Stella's ball, her pedestal, her stool. He introduces her to Snickers. When Ruby obeys Mac, he gives her a cube of sugar, a bit of dried apple. When she doesn't, he yells and kicks at the sawdust. When George and Julia arrive, Mac is still training Ruby. Julia sits on a bench and watches them. She draws a little, but mostly she keeps her eyes on Ruby. Bob watches too. He's hiding in the corner of my domain under not tag. It's raining outside, and Bob doesn't like damp feet. Ruby trudges behind Mac, her head drooping endlessly. They circle the ring. Sometimes Mac slaps her flank with his head. Oh no, poor Ruby. This is starting to make me sad. Suddenly, Ruby jerks to a stop. Mac pulls the chain hard, but Ruby refuses to move. Come on, Ruby, Mac says, almost pleading. What is your problem? She's exhausted, I say to myself. That's the problem. Mac groans. Idiot elephant. Idiot human, Bob mutters. Walk, Ruby, I say, although I know she's too far away to hear me. Do what he says. Walk, Mac commands. Now. Ruby doesn't walk. She plops her rump on the sawdust floor. I think maybe she's tired, Julia says. Mac wipes his forehead with the back of his arm. Yeah, I know. We're all tired. He pushes Ruby with the heel of his boot. She ignores him. George looks over from the food court, where he is wiping off tables. Mac, he yells, maybe you should call it a day. I'll close up. Mac yanks on Ruby's chain. She's as anchored as a tree trunk. He pulls harder and walks to his knees. That does it, Mac says. He brushes sawdust off his jeans. I'm through playing around. Mac stomps into his office. When he returns, he is carrying a long stick. The gleaming hook on its end is almost beautiful, like a sliver of moon. It's a claw stick. Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no. What's going to happen? What is he going to do? Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up my answer sheet. Think about it. What is he going to do with this claw? We've talked about this a little bit. It's definitely something we need to be worried about. Okay. Mac pokes Ruby with a sharp point. Not hard, just a touch. I can tell he wants to see how much it can hurt. I growl low in my throat. Ruby doesn't budge. She is a gray, unmoving boulder. She closes her eyes, and for a moment, I wonder if she might have fallen asleep. I'm warning you, Mac says. He breathes out. He stares at the ceiling. Ruby makes a huffing sound. Fine, Mac says. You want to play it that way? He draws the claw stick. No, Julia cries. I'm not going to hurt her, Mac says. I just want to get her attention. Bob snarls. Mac swings. The hook slices the air just a few inches above Ruby's head. See why you don't want to mess with me, Mac says. He draws back the claw stick again. Now move. Ruby jerks her head, flinging her trunk towards Mac. She makes a noise that sends the sawdust scattering. It makes my glass shiver. It is the most beautiful mad I have ever heard. Ruby's trunk slaps into Mac. I don't see exactly where she strikes him. Somewhere below his stomach, I think. And I know he must be uncomfortable because Mac drops the claw stick and falls on the ground and curls into a ball and howls like a baby. Direct hit, Bob says. Oh boy, he deserved it. He was being mean. That wasn't very nice. Not saying you should ever hit anybody, but that wasn't very nice. That was terrible. Poor Mac. Next chapter on page 154. Mac groans. He stumbles to his feet and hobbles off toward his office. Ruby watches him leave. I can't read her expression. Is she afraid, relieved, proud? When Mac is gone, George and Julia lead Ruby from the ring. It's okay, baby. It's okay, Julia says, stroking her head. They settle Ruby in her domain and make sure she has fresh water and food. Before long, Ruby's dozing. Dad, Julia asks as George locks Ruby's iron door, do you think Mac would ever hurt Ruby? I don't think so, Jules, George says. At least I hope not. Maybe we could call someone. George scratches his chin. I wish I could help Ruby, but I wouldn't know how. I mean, who would I call? The elephant cops? Besides, George looks down. I need this job, Jules. We need this job. Your mom? The doctor bills? He kisses the top of Julia's head. Back to work. You and me both. Julia sighs and reaches for her backpack. She removes a piece of paper, a bottle of water, and a small metal box. Homework first, George says, wagging a finger. Then you can paint. It's for art class, Julia explains. We're doing watercolors. I'm going to paint Ruby. George smiles. All right then, just don't forget your spelling. Dad, Julia asks again. Did you see Mac's face when Ruby hit him? George nods. Yes, he says solemnly. I did. He shakes his head. Poor Mac. He turns away, and only then do I hear him laughing. And this is going to be our last chapter. Colors. Julia opens the metal box. I see a row of little squares. Green, blue, red, black, yellow, purple, orange. The colors seem to glow. She pulls out a brush with a thin tuft of a tail at its end. She dips the brush in water and wets the paper, then taps at the red square. Then the brush meets the damp paper. Pink petals of color unfurl like morning flowers, so they open up like morning flowers. I can't take my eyes off that magical brush. For a moment, I'm not thinking about Ruby and Mac and the claw stick and Stella. Almost. Julia touches red again, then blue, and there suddenly is the purple of a ripe grape. She touches the blue, and her paper turns to summer sky. Black and white, and now I see that she is painting a picture of Ruby. I can make out her flappy ears, her thick legs. Julia stops painting. She takes a few steps back, hands on her hips, gazing at her work. She scowls. It's not right, she says. She glances over her shoulder at me. I try to look encouraging. Julia starts to crumble up the paper, then reconsiders. Instead, she slides into my cage at the spot where my glass is broken. Here you go, she says. A Julia original. That'll be worth millions someday. Gingerly, I pick up the paper. I do not eat a single bite of it. Oh, hey, I almost forgot. Julia runs to her backpack. She pulls out 3 plastic jars. 1 yellow, 1 blue, 1 red. She opens the jars and an odd, not food smell hits my nose. Julia pushes the jars one by one through the opening. Then she slides some paper through. These are called finger paints, she says. My aunt gave them to me, but really, I'm too old for finger painting. I stick a finger into the red paint. The paint is as thick as mud. It's cool and smooth, like bananas underfoot. I pop my finger into my mouth. It's not exactly ripe mango, but it's not bad. Julia laughs. You don't eat it. You paint with it. She grabs a piece of paper and presses her finger on it. See? Like this. I place my finger on a piece of paper. I lift it and a red mark is there. I get a bigger glob from the pot and slap my hand down on the page. When I pull my hand off the paper, it's red. Twin stays behind. This isn't like the ghostly handprints on my glass, the ones my visitors leave behind. This handprint can't be so easily wiped away. Look at the picture. I wonder if Ivan's going to learn how to paint now. Such a cool set of chapters. You know, I was sad for Ruby, but I love that she stood up for herself. I think that's great. Okay, let's talk more about the theme here, okay? Okay, so any answer could be different. A lot of people are going to come up with other things. But what I came up with, I wrote it down before we started. I came up with the difference between animals and humans. Right away, I was thinking about this. Should animals be treated differently from humans? And, in this I wrote, in these chapters, we see that Ruby feels tired when she is overtrained and angry and when she is mistreated. We see that Ivan feels sympathetic towards Ruby and victorious when Ruby manages to hit Mac. The theme I came up with is that animals and humans have like this connection. They're very similar and they should be treated the exact same. So if I wanted to give it one word, I would kind of say acceptance. The theme is the acceptance and the fact that humans and animals are not that different from each other. So I would say a lesson learned in these chapters is humans and animals are not that different. We have to accept that animals have feelings like humans, in a sense, right? And for example, remember we always have to put an example to prove that we know what we're talking about. For example, when Ruby got tired and was angry for being treated bad, she reacted and protected herself, right? She felt tired, yeah. So she had feelings just like humans. We had to accept that they have feelings like this. Ruby got tired and was angry for being treated bad. She reacted, reacted angrily like humans would. So why should we treat them any differently, right? Very good. So go ahead and write that down. Remember, there's a copy if you can't read it very well. Go ahead and pause here. And we're going to finish up for this Monday. Good work today, everybody. That was great. Enjoy the rest of your day. Get your note sheet done, and I can't wait to see your flip grids.